How it feels to chew 5 gum. Desecrate your rulers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all to today's content, a discussion on the wacky adventures of Benito Mussolini's corpse. We open Italy, April 28th, the year of our Lord 1940, and then 5 more. Benito Mussolini has just been executed by firing squad on the shores of Lake Como in front of the wall at the Villa Belmonte in a moment the New York Times describes as a fitting end to a wretched life. Now, for most people executed by firing squad, this would just be the end for their body. Just pick them up and bury them or burn them, and that's that. But not so with Mussolini. Not so. Shortly after his execution, later during the 28th, Mussolini's corpse, along with other executed fascists, were loaded onto a van and driven south to Milan, where, in the early morning of the 29th, the bodies were dropped in a plaza near the main railway station, and by 9 a.m. a large crowd had gathered. Now, kids, I'm not in the habit of quoting disgraced Jedi Knights, but in the words of Anakin Skywalker,
"This is where the fun begins."
With the crowd being described as sinister, depraved, and out of control closing in, once they recognized Mussolini on the ground, they began to violently kick the body, spitting on it, throwing putrid vegetables at him, actually shooting him, with one woman unloading an entire chamber while yelling, "One for each of my assassinated sons." And finally, some people decided to express their inner heavy rain and urinate all over the corpse. After the people released their initial grievances with the corpse, he was then hung by his feet on the metal roof workings of a half-built Standard Oil gas station, where the corpse then endured a second round of grievances by the angry populace. This practice of hanging by the feet had been used in northern Italy since the Middle Ages, Esso gas stations not included, and was meant as a sign of humiliation for the hanged. At around 2 p.m., American forces ordered the body be taken down and transferred to the local morgue for an autopsy. The autopsy was carried out on the 30th, with Mussolini's corpse being severely disfigured. Either 7 or 9 bullets were found in him depending on the source, with 4 bullets to heart being listed as the cause of death. Parts of his brain were also taken back to the U.S. for analysis, with the intent of the analysis to try and prove that his alleged syphilis caused his insanity. But I just think it was done so somebody could have an excuse to grab some brain, but what do I know? Sadly, no traces of syphilis were ever found in the body, and the fun just keeps rolling from there. After the autopsy, the body was dumped in an unmarked grave in the Masuko Cemetery, where it laid to rest for 356 days until Easter Sunday 1946. And then that's when the shenanigans started. Domenico Lecisi was an up-and-coming fascist when he and his 2 friends decided to dig up the year-old corpse of Mussolini. For what reason, you ask? The body snatchers only left a note that basically just dissed on the Italian Communist Party and nothing else. After their little body snatching maneuver, the team spent the next 16 weeks on the run, moving the body from location to location until it turned up in a monastery not far from Milan, where the corpse was found to have a leg missing for some reason, which begs the question, how did we get here? Nah, but it does actually beg the question, how did that happen? I can only imagine Domenico and the boys running through the countryside late one night trying to get away from the feds, when suddenly Mussolini gets stuck in some branches and, while trying to rescue the deceased fascist, the leg just decides to pop off. But since this trip was already costing them an arm and a leg, I'm assuming fate decided to take them literally. And so it was. After the body was found at the Milan monastery, the authorities arranged for the body to be moved to a Capuchin monastery in the Cerritos Maggiore. There it sat for the next 11 years, being hidden from everybody, including Mussolini's own family. After the 11 years were up, the Prime Minister declared, meh, why not, and agreed to return the corpse to Mussolini's widow so that he could be buried, or what was left of him at least, at his place of birth. As a gesture of kindness, the U.S. military decided to drop off the sadly syphilis-free 12-year-old hunk of his brain after the insanity tests came back as inconclusive, which I'm sure Mussolini's widow was just floored by this. Random daily act of kindness achieved, the U.S. then immediately went back to incinerating the jungles of Vietnam. Following the burial, the tomb was decorated in fascist regalia and a large marble head was erected to place beside the tomb. The site is said to now be a pilgrimage destination for neo-fascists, along with places like Franco's fibula in Madrid and Perón's pancreas in Buenos Aires. Most of the comments left of his tomb are in support of Mussolini's life and works. Naturally. An annual march is held every year on April 28th, the anniversary of his death, to celebrate neo-fascism, attracting thousands. So clearly no cause for concern here whatsoever. None at all. Mussolini is still resting there to this day. So, yeah. Being a corpse, especially a hated one, can be a tricky job. But don't worry. As long as you don't die an oppressive fascist dictator, you should never have anything to worry about. Kids, take one lesson from today's learning and just know this. The next time you misplace something around the house, just be glad you didn't accidentally misplace one of the most infamous historical figures in human history for 4 whole months somewhere in the Italian countryside. Thank you for tuning in to The Life and Times of Benito Mussolini's Corpse. We will see you next time.